Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Sunday live session where we do a 20 question mock test and has perception demonstration. Also answer any questions you may have about the ferry training and driving lessons and driving test. Because obviously once you pass your ferry test, that's the next step to pass your driving test. I've had so many emails this week with students who passed their ferry test a few years back and now they are asking for help again to pass their ferry test because they've waited the 2 years. It's now expired. So I'm trying to reinforce to make sure you guys pass your ferry test and go on and take your driving test as well. Because 2 years seems like a long time, but it does go very quickly. Let me just quickly set my windows up because I have no idea if this is going out live. I should have done the tech check this morning, but I didn't. So just give me a minute to set my windows up. Remember, if you've got a question, type it in the comment section, but please put a Q semicolon. It makes it easier for me to find because there's so many of you here and some of you having conversations between yourselves as well. If you don't put a Q semicolon, it looks like a comment. What am I looking for? Comment windows. Just stretch this out. And I think I am good to go. Right, so let's just move this over here so I can see better. Right, so see if this works. Yep, let me just go from this one to this one though. So what's good morning to you. Welcome back. Hopefully you are well. Yvonne, good morning to you. I've not seen your name before, so I think you're new or silent watcher, but welcome either way. Mini Prime, good morning to you. Hopefully you are well, preparing for your test next week. Hopefully you had good fun with that. It's always nice to spend time with family as well. I've been doing that last week or the week before. Not good circumstances, but still good to catch up with the family. Good morning to you and welcome. I don't think I've seen your name before either, so Yannery, hopefully I'm saying that right, I'm not butchering your name. That's actually on Wednesday. I wish you luck with that. Again, if you guys got any questions, you've got a test coming up, any questions, feel free to ask away. Let me send you in there nice and confidently so you don't have any doubts about anything in particular. Get my words out. Ask away. Like I said, do not... But Chad, welcome, hello. And how are you? How are things going? It's been a little while. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask any questions because they're not silly questions. It's silly not to ask the question, to be honest. Or if you've got a doubt, you want it cleared up. And that's why you're here, I'm assuming. If you've got any doubts, get your questions answered. I've had a good weekend so far. So yeah, I've had a good weekend. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Yeah, it does a bit of time. AI helps with that, but it does take a little bit of time to put it together. But it's what you have to do to get people to come on there, because my job is to help you guys pass. So the more people I can reach, the more people I can help, more people pass. Make the roads a bit busier, but that's life. How can I join the bootcamp? The link is in the description of all my videos. It'll be in the description of the live session, so just jump onto the description comment section. I'll tell you what, I can do it on here as well. So I've just now put that into... No, that's the wrong one. I've just put the link in the description, so go in the comment section, just click on that. It takes you straight through to the page. Read up on it first to make sure it's suitable for you, because a lot of people are asking me questions, blah blah blah, this, blah 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 that. All the information's in there. It's really weird to get emails asking me questions, which means they didn't read the sales page in the first place. I'm not gonna... Yeah, they didn't read the sales page in the first place. Be careful with that. All right, let me just answer that now. The app has 700 and something questions. I've not checked it lately because they bought a couple of questions. They're not new questions, just reworded some and deleted some old questions, but haven't really replaced it. So, but it's 700 and something questions. You're saying it's 785. This is for everybody, not just for Mini Prime. I have a lot of people coming to me and saying, I've done every question in the app. I've taken the real test and I failed it. Now, let me explain. Just because you answered every question in the app, it doesn't mean to say you're ready to take a test. And that's the biggest, one of the biggest mistakes people are making. The other mistake people are making is also they feel that the questions in the app is the real questions, hence why they've done all 700 plus questions and they think they're ready for a test. Now, let me explain. You can do 700 and something questions and answer all 700 and something questions correct. It doesn't mean to say you're ready for a test. When you are studying, the thumbnail of this live, funny enough, is study smart. When you are studying to understand the question. Forget the answer for now. You're studying to understand the question. And then when you understand the question, you're now trying to understand the answer. And then when you understand the answer, you're trying to understand why the answer is correct. So there's three understandings there. Let me just say it again. You're trying to understand the question, then you're trying to understand the answer, and then you're trying to understand why the answer is correct. So when you go for the real test and they reword it differently, it makes no difference to you because you understand the question, you understand what they're looking for, which means when the answer is worded differently, it makes no difference because you understand what they're trying to say and you're going to pick that one. So be very careful when you turn around and say, well, I've done all the questions in the app. It does not mean to say you are ready for a real test. That's the reason why. Just give an example of what I just said. I had a pupil of mine driving lesson. She doing her own studying because she felt she was ready. She took the theory test, obviously failed it. And I say obvious because I knew she was going to fail it, but when I tried to explain to her, she thought, I got this, blah, blah, blah. She didn't want to take information from me. So now she's taking information from me, which I found very weird. Her driving instructor who teach theory training tried to help her. She didn't want it, but paid the price. But my point is this. She didn't know what a brow of a hill was. She did not want to ask me what a brow of a hill was. That question came because we was just talking about brow of a hill when we was doing the driving lesson, going over, slow down, blah, blah, blah. And she didn't know what a brow of a hill was, even though I mentioned it on the driving lesson. And she didn't ask for clarification. This is why I say no question is a stupid question. Stupid not to ask the question. It came up on her theory test. She felt she got the question wrong. And then when I explained what a brow of a hill was, then it made more sense. And this is what I'm talking about. You guys see a question, see certain words, aquaplaning is another one, coasting is another one, and you don't find out what these things mean. You just kind of think, especially if you get the answer right, it's like, well, I got it right, so it doesn't really matter. You need to understand what coasting means because there's different ways of explaining it. You need to understand what a brow of a hill is. It's different ways of explaining it. And the way that I'd normally say this with my students in the car, because when I teach driving lessons, I keep it very simple, very basic. And I always use the example of 2 + 2, which I've done on the lives before. 2 + 2 = 4. 4 equals safety from the examiner's point of view for your driving lesson. So anything you do when your driving lesson has to equal 4 equals safety. My students understand that by the time they go for a driving test, which means if they do a 3 + 1 for a situation, it makes no difference. It still equals 4. They're still passing. If they do a 4 + 0, it doesn't matter. They're still going to pass because it still equals safety. And that's how you have to do your theory test. You have to understand it. So when they word that question or answer differently on the day, or they're going to be questions that you've never seen before. The one thing I should say as well even though there's only 700 and something questions on the app, they have a database of 1,500 to 2,000 questions because they reword the question differently. It could be one question worded 5 different ways. So they got a database of 2,000 questions, give or take. And that's the reason why. So when they word it differently, the understanding is there, which means you are going to pass anyway. So I repeat, be careful when you say I've done all 700 and something questions. It does not mean say you're ready or even understand what they're asking. All it means is that you memorize what the answer was from studying in the first place. That's why I say, in again, the title of the thumbnail, study smart. In other words, study smarter. Understand it, you're going to pass it anyway. For me, good morning to you. Passed your test yesterday. Every time they say yes, I've got to think Saturday, because some test centres do a Saturday. Not all of them, it's overtime. So congratulations on you passing, and well done. Let me know if you're still here what your next step is, driving lessons or driving test. Good morning to you. I took my theory test last Thursday, 33. If you got 33 out of 50, that's 17 questions wrong on a real test. That goes back to what I just said, understanding. There's no way you should be taking a real test and getting 17 questions wrong. Taking the test and failing, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's the way you fail. If you're getting 17 questions wrong on a real test, there's a definite lack of understanding, because 30 of those questions out of the 50, if you use common sense, you're going to get 30 out of 50 just standard with no studying. The other 20 you're making up with studying. So there's a definite lack of understanding in that situation. So if you was my student, you'd be back to square one, do each category in turn, understand each category, blah, 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 and then work your way back to mock test. But I definitely wouldn't be booking another test anytime soon. Yeah, I've got 2 fans on. I've got one beside me and one behind me. And because I've got all the lights on now, I've got so many lights on, it's ridiculous, it's so hot. So yeah, good morning to you. Another pass as well, well done. 45, 57. No problem, you are welcome again. Thank you for coming to the live and let me know, appreciate it. Again, let me know what you're up to next, driving lessons or driving tests. Here's the link, not that you can copy and paste it from here, but it's in the description, in the comments now. Right, for document section, for one is heavily remembering information and facts. That one is heavily remembering information and facts. Since the questions are sample ones, is it difficult to remember? I was thinking highway code for it. Let me come back to that, because it's a bit deep. Hold on, let me start. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let me just do the overview and then we'll crack on, but I'll keep going through your mini prime. You always challenge me. Your things are so deep. I will answer that though, but let me do the overview first, because that's, you guys are here for the test. And I'll talk while we're doing that. Let me get rid of this. Multiple choice, 50 questions. You guys should know. You need 43 out of 50. The 50 questions is taken from 14 different categories. Just in case you didn't know, you're new here. The test is, the mock test or test in general is made up of 14 different categories. Your 50 questions is drawn from those 14 categories. You don't know how your 50 questions are going to be made up. That's the reason why I say study every single category, because you don't want a weakness. Because if you have a weakness, again, let's just choose road signs, because I found that in my email box this week, referenced a lot. And you get 5 or 6 road signs, you're going to struggle. But like I said, if you can cover all 14 categories and reduce your weaknesses, you've got a better chance of passing. I mentioned earlier on, but I'll say again, there's sampled questions on the app. So when you go for the real test, they're going to be worded slightly differently. And there will be questions that you have never seen before, whether it's 1 or 2, 5 or 6. It still comes to the same situation, safety, which you'll see in a minute. But I would definitely do all 14 categories first before moving on to mock test. Time wise, you've got 57 minutes. Again, common theme. Students are doing it in 20-25 minutes, failing, and I don't know why. One of the reasons why you're failing, because you've done it in 20-25 minutes. You need to break the question down, you need to break the answer down, look for the clues, look for nuggets, maybe flag it, move on, go back. You can't do that in 20-25 minutes and get a positive outcome. Can some people do it in 25 minutes and pass? Yes, some. But if you look on the average pass rate, it's less than 50%, and it takes 3.3 attempts to pass the theory test. Why? Because you can't do the test in 25 minutes. So just because some people can, it doesn't mean to say you should. So I will be definitely taking my time on that if I was you guys, and you want to practice that at home. I had someone email me doing the test in 20 odd minutes when the conversation was had on the email. No, it was 17, 18 minutes. I said, that's too quick. Oh, when I go for my test, for my real test, I'm going to take my time. It doesn't work that way. Remember, when you're testing yourself at home, you're testing what you're going to be doing on the day of a test. That's the whole point of a test. So you replicate what you do at home. So if you're doing it in 15, 20 minutes at home, the brain's going to want to do it in 15, 20 minutes on the day. Now, when you try to take longer, which is deliberate, the brain is not used to that because you're slowing it down, and it's not used to being slow because it's done everything fast. It's going to overthink things, which means you're going to pick the wrong answer. This particular person emailed me, I think it was Tuesday, we got in a conversation, then it went to WhatsApp, blah, blah, blah. Same thing, 15, 20 minutes too quick. Now I'm going to slow myself down on, because his test was Friday. Guess what happened on the day of the test? He failed it. Was no surprise to me, because he turned around and said, but I took my time. I took 40 odd minutes, I think he said. He took the question was. And because you're taking 20 minutes longer than what you did at home, that's not what the brain was trained to do. That's the reason why. So when you study at home, you're supposed to study the way you're going to do it on the day of the test. That's how it works, like for like. Your driving lessons are the same. You drive on your driving lessons safely, under control. When you go for the day of the driving test, you do exactly the same. You don't change anything. So now you can just worry about controlling the nerves. Once you change something for the driving test, the brain's not used to it. That's how it works. So take your time at home, and then you take your time on the real test as well. Once you've done that, you move on to the hazard perception, which is 14 video clips. One of them's got a double, 2 5s. You need 44 out of 75 on that. You want average 3. You won't know what the average is, but you need to be averaging 3 or more when that test is finished. I will do a hazard perception demonstration at the end of this, because it's common that people are still failing that, which is on paper is the easiest out of the two. If I had to choose one out of the two to do for my test, it'd be hazard perception all day long. I wouldn't want to do the questions because it's random. Common sense is what you're looking for. This is what I just said. Someone got 33, I think it was, out of 50. To be honest, if you use common sense, just don't study at all. Use common sense. You should be averaging at least 30, because it is a bit of common sense if you break it down and just look for the clues. And then the other 13 questions you need to pass should be studying in that sense. Obviously, you still study, you're not going to just go in there with common sense. But my point is, if you're getting 30s on your real test, there's a serious lack of knowledge in terms of what you're looking for. But ideally, what they want is safety outcome, because that's what your driving test is. If it doesn't lead to safety, then it's going to control the outcome, which is normally your motorways. And first aid questions, controlling the situation, like placing a triangle 45 meters away from your broken down car, as an example. If you do struggle, I do run a 30-day study camp. It's, as much as it's called 30 days, 30 days is a sweet spot for studying if you're putting the time and effort in. I know everybody's different because people are working, college, uni. You know, you've got college and uni's breaking up soon. What I'm saying is, you don't want to be studying relentlessly and going over 30 days. The reason why the app only has 700 and something questions, at some point you're going to exhaust all those questions. Then it becomes memorizing the question, memorizing the answer. You just know what the answer is, and automatically do a test in 15, 20 minutes, because you see the question, you know what it is, you already know what the answer is before you look at the 4 options. You don't want to get to that stage. But if you join the study camp, you're not in it for 30 days, you're in it until you pass. If it takes you 6 months to pass, you're in it for 6 months. You do not get kicked out of it until you pass with that. And I don't kick you out, let you go because you passed it. I just want to rephrase that. So yeah, if you do struggle, like I said, the link is in the description. It's also in the comment section. So let me go back to your comments quickly. I mean, I will answer your question, but let me start the test first. Let me just say good morning to some of these guys. Francis, been a little while. I've decided to do manual lessons instead of automatic because I already know how to drive automatic. Okay, choice is yours. Have you taken an automatic driving test or you just changing to manual? Just answer that for me. Automatic manual lessons, that's a personal thing that I can't recommend. I would recommend this though. If you are in the younger age bracket, 17 to 25, I would definitely go, unless you've got disability, because that's automatics are designed for disabled people, by the way. It's just able-bodied people took it over. If you're between 17 and 25, I would go down the manual route, and the reason for that, you don't know where your life is going to take you. And that way you got both options, so you don't know where it's going to take you, what personal route it's going to take you, you don't know where the job is going to take you. And that way, because most jobs offer manual cars rather than automatic, so if you're in a position to drive both, then you can take a job no matter what. But if you're automatic, then you're kind of stuck. So that's what I would recommend. So between 17 and 25, maybe even slightly older, go for the manual route. If you're set in life a little bit older than that, got your family, blah, 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 then your life is probably set. You can go with the automatic. And a lot of people say automatic's easier. Driving's driving. It's easier because you haven't got a left foot to use. For those of you that don't know, in a manual, you use your left foot as well as your right foot. In an automatic, you just use your right foot. But once you get used to the pedals in the manual, driving's the same, because you're looking through the windscreen and dealing with problems. So in an automatic, it doesn't mean to say it's easier. You're just using one leg rather than two. Right. First 2 years. At least his little accident. Hopefully it didn't shake you up, and it sounds like you're still driving anyway. So, because sometimes when someone has an accident, it can shake you up and they want to stop driving for a while. Just get on a horse and start riding straight away, and you're okay still driving. So I'm glad it's not serious. Right, let me start the test and I'll keep going through your comments. Zita, I've not seen your name before, so I'm assuming you're new. 49 out of 50, missed it by 1, the magical 50. When I say missed it by 1, I mean the magical 50. Getting 50 out of 50 is massive, because to go in there, be nervous, and you've got all these doubts and still manage to get 50 out of 50. In this case, 49 out of 50 is amazing. So well done to you. And 52 out of 75, it's 75. I missed the mark. Okay. That's fine, but a pass is a pass. Well done to you. Congrats. I started driving lessons as well 6 weeks ago. There you go. Look, I commenced driving lessons about 6 weeks ago, and it was quite helpful with understanding the theory plan. Is to continue and hopefully be ready for a practical test in about 5 to 6 months. If you're doing 2 hours a week, it depends on how quick you learn. 2 hours a week, 6 months. It's possible, feasible, as long as you're average or above learner. Right, let me start this because that's what you guys are here. Share screen would help. So those of you that are new, we read the question. First of all, it's number 1, just here. Right, sorry. Read the question. What does this signal from a police officer mean to oncoming traffic? If they've got images, always look at the image, because sometimes there's clues in the image. Break the image down. And then this is A, this is B. So A and B on the top line, C and D is on the bottom line. So if you think it's A, please put the question number and A in the comment section. And the reason why, because there's a delay between me and YouTube and you and YouTube. So when I show the question, so the answers that you guys are putting, I want to make sure it's the same question we're dealing with. So answer it. And keep your comments coming, questions coming as well. So let me just check something. So I'm just trying to put all these comments in order so I can just quickly answer them. So bear with me. Zeta, I just seen your question. I'm going to come to that in a sec. Let me just start all of this so I can just chase them up. You guys are typing so quick, it's unreal. I can't keep up. Right, here we are. I'm going to put this up because I know we're on the first one, but please put the question number, otherwise it won't be shown again after that. So look, put the question, to so many of you, put the question number, just like D has, question number and letter of choice. Right, 1D is what you guys gone for. Flat palm, if it's got a flat palm, if it's got a flat palm in the image or flat backhand, it means stop. That's what it means. Flat palm, flat backhand is stop. They normally use this one on the test, but they can use the backhand version on the real test, but it does mean stop. In other words, it's a red light. Right, number 2 says, why could it be dangerous to keep the clutch down or select? So this is select, I don't know why the end's cut off. Or select neutral for long periods of time while driving. Number 2, please put the question number 2, otherwise it won't get shown. Right, let me just quickly go through these now. For the document section, that one is heavily remembering information and facts. Since for questions and sample ones, it is difficult to remember. I was thinking highway code for it. Highway code is going to make it more difficult. Everything is about remembering, but as much as I'm saying you don't want to remember, what I'm trying to say to you, if I said to you, I don't know, if I give you 3 digits and just 1, 2, 3, just for example's sake, and I say go off and remember that, you're trying to remember it. But if I said to you 1, 2, 3 and I gave you a reason for the 1, 2, 3, you're trying to remember and understand the reason behind it, because then it's easy to recall, i.e. easy to remember. So you've got to be careful with remembering. Documents is about remembering, but you've got to understand why. That's the key to the whole thing. So example, MOT, how do you get your tax? What documents do you need to have before you get your tax? You can easily try to remember, but you may get it in the wrong order. It's MOT first. Why? Because your car has to be roadworthy. The tax is for your car to be on the road. So let me just say the question again. Which documents do you need before you get your tax? Like I said, you can remember the order, but if they word it differently, you may struggle. If you understand the why it's in that order, that's where the memory comes in. So I know why, so I can remember the order that's in. So example, to get your tax, you need MOT first. Why do you need MOT first? Because your car needs to be roadworthy. That's what MOT is. Then you need to insure the car, so you need insurance, so you are insured to drive the car on said road. And then your tax is for your car to be on said road. So you've got to be very careful with when you say remembering. It's still understanding, and then you just remember the reasons why, because understanding's there. So hopefully that makes sense. Highway code can make it more difficult, because the highway code is rules and laws, where the theory test is just giving you the basic stuff. You have to do you. Would I go down the highway code studying? No, but partly because I'm dyslexic, so I wouldn't want to be taking on more reading than anything else. But you have to do you. So I'm not saying you can't use highway code. I'm not saying you can't use other stuff. You have to do you, because you know you better than I do. But I will just keep things simple. Yes, that is what I think the question is, not the full part. I'm trying to understand the question. Not everything leads to safety. Again, like I said, it's common sense in terms of, and getting what I just said, MOT, I say common sense. If you don't drive a car, you don't know. But like I said, it's about understanding what MOT is and all the rest of it. So you've got to be careful. You're just going to be a little bit too deep. You're just going to a bit too... If you're mastered, I'll try to knock that out of you straight away, to be fair. But you have to do you. Your test is next week. I wouldn't change anything now because it's a bit late to change your mindset. Just don't do too much in terms of getting to the answer. Just, boom, that's the answer. Try to find a simple way of understanding it and go from there. Sorry, we're on number 2. Let's find the 2s. Got to see here. What documents do you need to drive? What document do you need then to drive legally? Driving license. For just in case you didn't know, you're doing a category B test, so you need a driver's license with category B, which is a car test. Once you decide to go down the minibus, lorries, those type of routes, those categories would open up on your license as you hit the age bracket and experience bracket. So the document you need is your license, as long as it's got category B on there, because you're doing a car driving test, which means you're doing a car theory test. Good morning to you, Ali. I passed last Tuesday 44. Congratulations on passing. And thanks for letting me know on that. So sorry, 2D. Someone's gone for a C on that. Why could we do the clutch? This is coasting. See, look, they didn't even mention coast on there. That's what I said, understanding. Why could it be dangerous to keep clutch down or select neutral for long periods of time? The normal question is, why is coasting a bad driving technique? But they don't even mention coasting in this. But understanding will always get you to the right answer. You guys went for D. You have less steering. Yeah, coasting is a lack of control or lack of engine braking they can put as well. Someone went for C. Engine damage may be cool. You can't damage the engine with the clutch down, because technically it's neutral. Hence the word neutral here. You're driving on a motorway. What does it mean if a car in front shows its hazard warning lights for a short period of time? Right, Josh, welcome. Josh P, welcome. I failed twice now, 38 and 50, 41, 50. Again, you have to do you. I find the highway code book and app better than videos, but videos can help. You, like I said, you have to do you. Not everyone. I'm visual. I wouldn't. So the books wouldn't do nothing for me. It would if I'd spend time to break it down. To be fair, I would say it wouldn't do nothing for me. It'd be more difficult for me because, like I said, I've got dyslexia. Unless the book's got a lot of pictures in there to help me out, I will struggle. So if I want to learn anything, I'm on YouTube. I'm watching videos and doing it that way. But I repeat, you have to do you. With your scores at 38, you improved on the second time round. 41. There's still lack of understanding in that. The highway code doesn't give you understanding. That's the problem. It just tells you what the laws and rules are. It doesn't give you understanding behind it. But I repeat, you have to do you. Did my third in a few weeks. And what did you get? 41 out of 50. I don't, like I said, I don't know you, so I can't comment on that. Me personally, based on what you've done, 38 out of something, 50 and 41, I think it was. I wouldn't be doing another one in a few weeks, not in 2 weeks. There's still a lot of learning to be done on that, but again, you have to do you. I don't know how much time you're going to put in between now and the test in a couple of weeks. No, I've not seen your name before, so welcome to you. Took my test yesterday and had 38. 38 again, 12 questions wrong. Again, that's a lack of understanding. 52 out of 75. Has perceptions all right. 38, there's not enough knowledge there with that. We just started with it. I've just put this message up. a while ago, started a little while ago, so I'm assuming you was here for number 1. But you're here, that's all that matters. Let me just quickly go to number 3. What are we on 3? We're on 3, aren't we? Here we are. Andrea, welcome. How are you, Andrea? Long time. Sending that congratulations to everyone. Three D's what you guys are going for. Traffic ahead is like, yeah, hazard lights is, I'll tell you why. What does it say? Let me explain why. You're on the motorway, 17 miles an hour driving. So, especially with the weather, the way it is being so hot and so bright, brake lights don't always show up clearly on broad daylight on open space. So you won't know the person slowing down to the last minute. By putting hazard lights, and just in case you don't know, on the outside it flashes amber, on the inside it flashes green. And so on the outside, flashing amber shows up in any weather conditions. That's the reason why. Like I said, it's always about understanding why and understandings with that. How will your journey be affected by travelling outside for busy times of day? I have a question about why is it dangerous to apply a handbrake. I have a question about why it's dangerous to apply a handbrake. Can you explain, please? I feel it's something. When I'm teaching on the very first lesson, I teach that it's dangerous because the handbrake only works on the back wheels. The foot brake works on all 4 wheels, and when you use the foot brake, the brake lights come on, which let people know you're slowing down. The handbrake has no brake lights, and it only works on the back wheels, and it's not strong enough to stop the car either. So you always use the foot brake first to stop the car, and then use the handbrake to hold the car. So for example, when you park up, you go handbrake neutral. If you're on a steep gradient, you're worried about rolling back, you put the handbrake on, and then you find your biting point if you're doing a manual lesson. So the handbrake only works on the back wheels. If you pull it on while the car's moving, it's possible the car can go into a skid as well. But like I said, there's no brake lights. That's why it's dangerous. So I hope that makes sense. Wait, what is a brow of a hill? I haven't seen that before. I'm trying to understand what I learned and not regurgitate to lots of different features. Not all can be covered. No, you're 100% correct, especially when the questions... They're going to be questions you've never seen before, but it's still about understanding. A brow of a hill is the bit where you come over where you can't see. So that's what a brow is. You go up and over. It's similar like an eyebrow, how it goes up and around. So you're going up, cars just here, down, can't see it. So a brow of a hill is literally where you just go over. So one of the questions is normally where should you not park? And a brow of a hill is an option. So you don't park near a brow of a hill because when a car comes over, you're right there. You want to park away from it. So when the car comes down the hill, it's got a good vision of where the car's parked up. Oh, not late. That's a question. Fresh is saying good morning. Again, sorry I'm late. Not late because this was up ages ago. And what are we on, number 4? Let's put this up there quickly. You passed. Congratulations on passing, and thank you for coming to the live. Let me know. So, skip these 4 C's. Alright, 4 C's. What you guys are going for? Your journey will be few delays. Yeah, outside the what's it called? Rush hour and school run. For example, you're going to be a lot quicker, obviously, because you're not stuck in traffic. Ideally, when you book your driving test, if you want to think about it as well. I know driving tests are hard to come by, so you take what you can get. But ideally, you don't want to book your driving test first thing in the morning. School time, school run, rush hour, rush, and when school's finishing. I had a test this week, Stevenage. And he booked his tests for 7:13 in the morning, so it was well before the rush hour and everything else. But he's got the start of the rush hour when he was coming back. So the start of the rush hour when he was coming back. So if your driving shuttle wants to do it that early, that was an early start for us. Book it before that. This time of year they do early morning tests. Like I said, 7:13 was his test. And in the summer they would do late evening tests as well. But in the winter time, try to avoid school run where possible. But like I said, I know you guys have to take what you can get. Sorry, number 5, how can drivers help the environment? Pumpkin Music, thank you for all your advice to pass my test Thursday. Congratulations on passing. If you're still here, 48 out of 50. Well done to you. 48 out of 75, just about on has perception. The good thing is, even though you just passed the has perception, give or take, you're going to be using it on your driving lessons. Every lesson is a has perception. So that's only going to get stronger anyway. But your questions, multiple choice was strong. So well done to you. I'll take again this Tuesday coming. My problem is motorway questions and rules on the road. Your problem isn't motorways and rules of the road. And I'm going to tell you why. I can't remember what you got, but I know it's in the 30s. You did not get 12 questions with motorway questions and rules of the road. That's the reason why. Everyone thinks they got a particular problem on a category. Let me quickly explain. If you are getting 30 something out of 50, there's no way on earth you can turn around and say to me, well, my weakness is motorway questions and rules. If motorway questions and rules of the road is what you got here, is your strongest category, let's just say you studied and that became strong, you will still fail your next test. And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to prove it to you. I can't remember what you got, right? So let's just say it was 38. I know it was in the 30s. Just say it was 38 out of 50. You got 12 questions wrong. If you got your sheet in front of you, your last test that you took, you got it in front of you, take a look at it, and I guarantee you got 6 questions wrong in 6 categories. There's no way on earth you had 38, 12 questions, 6 questions, let's say 6 question motorway questions, 6 rules of the road and failed. You had 6 different categories, minimum 6, probably more. Look at those categories. Those are your weaknesses. And that's what you need to sort out. Is it possible to sort out from the last test to Tuesday? I don't know how much time you've put in. But there's a common theme with your test. That theme, I'm assuming, is still there because you haven't got training. You didn't have training. All you did was do more studying, which means you was doing the same studying that got you the same result previous, which is not going to improve. So that's my advice. And so I wouldn't be going in there thinking motorway question rules of the road is my problem. I'll be going in there thinking, hold a minute, I got at least 6 categories. If you got your paperwork and you don't mind sharing, let me know how many categories you got wrong, see if I'm right or wrong, because that's going to help everybody else. Because what you're saying is you got 2 categories wrong, all on motorway and motorway questions and rules of the motorway, rules of the road, sorry. And that's not true. 5. And also, let me just quickly do this 5. There we go. If you guys fail, let me reword that. If you guys fail, you need to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, why did I fail? Because you remember, you want to improve. If you're not honest with yourself, technically you're lying to yourself. And saying motorway rules and rules of the road and motorways is my weakness, that's lying to yourself because you did not fail on that. If you did, that means you got 2 categories wrong, 12 questions wrong in 2 categories. But like I said, look on your paperwork and I guarantee you it wasn't 2 categories. I've been doing this for too long to know that 2 categories don't fail you. But like I said, if you don't mind sharing, get the paperwork and let us know how many categories. You don't have to tell us what categories or how many questions I get. Just let me know how many categories you got. Our topics, same as categories. Yeah, I just call them categories because that's what it's broken down to. But topics and categories, same thing. Sorry, what did you guys go? 5A. My accelerating gently. Based on the options, that's the easier. When I say accelerating gently, that means nice and smooth, for the right speed, right gear for the right time and right situation. Again, how can drivers help the environment? I said drivers. Sometimes it says how can people help the environment. It could be walk or cycle, which is the other option. It doesn't always mean accelerating. It could be walk or cycle is the other option. On the real test, how should you use the lanes on a motorway? Morning, I took tests, got 40 out of 50, it's 10 questions wrong. Again, someone who's getting 40 out of 50, they are looking at about 5 categories normally with that. Someone who's getting 30, like I said, you're looking at 6 or more. And if you think it's only 14 categories and you've got more than 6 categories wrong, that's half the categories. I failed the question about why is it dangerous to apply the handbrake while the car is moving. I feel like I should. I think I've answered that one. Okay, I sadly failed mine yesterday. I was sorry to hear that. I have some questions that confuse me. If you've got questions, put them in. Don't be afraid to type them in. The cyclist helmet should be removed first in emergency, or call emergency first. Think about it. Safety, you call emergency first. Why would you move the helmet? That's time being wasted. The emergency service need to be on their way. You should never remove a helmet unless it's essential. Either help them breathe or give first aid. The helmet stays on. The helmet's designed to protect the skull. You don't know what's going on underneath. Why would you remove a helmet first and not call an ambulance? Call the ambulance first and then worry about afterwards. I choose the option of car stalling, even though I had some reservation, but I realised I was wrong. I'm not sure that's related. If that's related to the handbrake one, I'm not sure what that's relating to. If you want to retype that again and let me know what it's relating to, I can try and help you with that. And the yellow line in the school road, is it for people to drop off kids or for kids to be seen? And last question is emergency area for you to park your car, or for emergency car to be parked. All right, let me come back to that. Let me just quickly put this one. Let me come back to that. Thank you, sir. I passed my test on Wednesday. I'm up for 47. 60 has perceptions high. 47. Congratulations on passing Ernestina. Hopefully I'm saying that correct. Not seen your name before. So definitely welcome. And thank you for letting me know. And we are on number 6. Oops. Have a test in 3 days. All right, let me start. I'll come back to that. It's a bit more detailed. Again, let me come back to that. It's a bit detailed. Right, so C was what you went for. How should you use the lanes on the motorway? Keep to the left-hand lane unless you're overtaking. Yeah, stay left when possible. What type of vehicle uses an amber flashing beacon on a dual carriageway? It's interesting. I'll explain. That's a bit confusing, misleading. But anyway, I'll explain that when you guys throw your answer in there. Right, let me do this one. All right, and the yellow line in a school road is for people to drop off kids or for kids to be seen. And last question is emergency area for you to park your car or for emergency car to be parked. First of all, you're getting the wording wrong. Be very careful. Yellow, I know what you're talking about because I'm a driving instructor. Yellow lines and school keep clear signs are two different things. Yellow lines is parking restrictions, not always near a school. You're talking about the school keep clear sign is for kids to be seen and for kids to see and to be seen is the answer you're looking for. So I repeat, the school keep clear sign, it happens to be yellow, but school keep clear sign is for kids to see and to be seen. That's what it's for. Emergency area, if you're talking about for the motorway, emergency refuge area, emergency area is for emergency breakdowns. If you have broken down or the driver's taken seriously ill, it's for you to park in there. So it's an emergency area for if you have broken down. So hopefully that makes that clear. I have it 33. So you got 33 out of 50. So definitely it's not motorways and rules or whatever you put before. 62.75. Has perception, you got that nailed. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just the questions. Because it's very rare that someone goes for a has perception, wants to understand it and go backwards as in fail it. But it's the questions. But like I said, there's no way on earth 17 questions. There's no way on earth you got 17 questions on just those two categories. But like I said, if you're willing to share, you're going to help everybody else because it's proving the point I'm trying to make. With that, okay, you guys having a conversation amongst yourself, which is fine. 47 out of 50 is impressive, and it's what we. Okay, you guys having a conversation. How have you been preparing? Again, you guys are having a conversation. What are we on? 7. Let's do the 7s. I'll come back to that. Got a B here. Oh, you change your answer. That's fine. That's what we call flagging. That's what you're supposed to do. 7B. That is confusing question because either you have to remember what each of the vehicles looks like and I can't see the understanding. Nope, that's totally wrong. This is where I told you about understanding. This is a confusing question because either you have to remember what each of the vehicle looks like. Nope. And I'll explain why in a minute. The correct answer is D. The rest are for safety. They usually show blue lights. Nope, wrong again. This is, like I said, this is where you guys are really lacking the understanding. I did a theory test last time and I failed by 2 marks. Let me come back to that, tackle that. That's a separate issue altogether. Right, let me explain this. What did you guys go for? Common answer D. There's a couple of B's on there. No, she changed the answer to D, didn't she? Right, okay. Right, D. Why I say it's misleading because it's got a dual carriageway in there. This is what I'm saying about answer. Let me do this. Write this down. I don't know why they put dual carriageway in there. That's misleading altogether. The key is amber flashing beacon. Fire engines are blue. Emergency services saves human life. Ambulance are blue. Emergency services save human life. Doctors are green. Fast response units. Tractors are yellow or amber. Amber is slow moving. There's 3 lights. Let me just quickly get rid of all these red marks so I don't confuse you. There's only 3 lights they can talk about. And this way you don't have to remember what the vehicles are or what the vehicles look like, which Mini Prime said. A fire engine, ambulance, what's the other one? Police, emergency services, they're blue. Now, if they don't give you those 3, let's say the question was blue light and they don't give you those 3 options, police, fire, ambulance, then you're going to work out which one saves a human life. Human life saving is blue. And the 2 they use outside of that on the real test is bomb disposal and coast guards. Your green lights are doctors. They're your fast response units. So doctors' cars, they have got bikes. Doctors' bikes, doctors' cars are green. And then slow moving are amber, which is your tractor, mobility scooters they use as well for an answer, and road maintenance vehicle they use as an answer. So I'll repeat that again. Blue are emergency services, human life saving. Doctors are your fast response unit, which are green, and slow moving, all slow moving vehicles are flashing amber. That's the understanding. It's not about knowing what the vehicles look like. So hopefully that makes sense to those of you that were struggling with that. Why do motorcyclists often look round over their right shoulder just before turning right? Okay, you guys have a conversation. Debbie, good morning to you. I'll be reading all the books, watching these videos, and using Flashcard Plus apps. Would you recommend to also restart my driving test? I'm not sure. I'm assuming you mean you stopped taking driving lessons and you want to take driving lessons again. Only you can answer. I always recommend taking driving lessons alongside the theory because the two goes hand in hand. It reinforces it. Motorways are also still confusing me. When again, I'm not using you as an example, not picking on you. When you guys say road signs, motorways, documents, whatever it happens to be, is confusing me. It can't be the whole category that's confusing you. You have to work out what is confusing or which question is confusing, because the categories, if you look a bit deeper, you can break them down. But you have to know, this is what I'm saying, study smarter. You have to know what it is you're trying to study. You have to know what you're trying to get out of that study session. So if your motorways is confusing you, what about motorways is confusing? Because it can't be all of it. So that's what you need to break it down. What is confusing me? And then that's what you study on. So when you turn around and say motorways still confuse me, that's a massive topic. So I can't sit down here and explain to you about motorways. You got to say to me, well, motorways confuse me. What confused me about motorways is the studs. Boom, I can help you with that, for example. Oh, the lanes, I can help you with that. But motorways is a whole topic. So it can't be the whole, surely it can't be the whole topic. If it is, then you go for each question one by one. As simple as that. But I know out of training, doing this for years, it can't be the whole topic. You must understand something about motorways. So what is it that's confusing? And that's for all of you that are struggling with particular topics. It's not the whole topic. It can't be. The brain has to know something about the topic. It's what's confusing you. Work that out. Go and study it. Number 8. And this is why, again, it's funny, the title of this live is Study Smart. Yeah, if you can restart driving lessons, I'll be honest with you, you're struggling based on what you're typing, because I pick up what people say, and I know it's not a two-way conversation, just typing stuff in. Driving lessons is going to help you a bit, but you have, from my point of view, a lack of understanding. You have to go a little bit deeper to understand it. Driving lessons ain't going to help with that. If your driving instructor is willing to help you with the theory, then you can take some time out of your driving lessons, bring the questions along to him or her and say X, Y, Z, I'm struggling. Hopefully they help you. I know not all instructors want to do that. They say, well, they're driving instructors. I think that's wrong, because learning the theory is helping you drive. But like I said, it depends on the instructor you got. But from what I'm picking up from you, driving lesson isn't going to solve your problem though. You have to go a little bit deeper than what you're going at the moment. Motorways confusing for me is for numbers. I often forget what the numbers mean. What numbers on the motorway? Am I missing something here? What motors are on the motorway? There's only motorways. There's only The blue box with the 3 bars, that's the yards. 100, 300 yards, 200, 100. There's a black box, white writing, junction number or exit number. That's the only numbers that I know. And correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, there's only 2. Black box, white writing. They do ask that. That's your junction number or exit number. So junction 25, exit 25. There's the blue, it's blue, but there's different colours. There's blue, green, not for motorways. There's blue, green, red and white, black and white. They're all the same. They're countdown numbers. 300 yards, 200, 100. But it's blue and white for motorways. I can't think of any other numbers on the motorway. So correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know what other numbers you're struggling with. So you guys are going to try AB. 8B, not AB. Yeah, that's what motorcyclists do. What should you do when you're approaching traffic lights that have been green for some time? I can't advise you on that because I'm biased. I'm a manual driving instructor. I have taught automatics way back in the day. I think automatics are boring, but as I said earlier on, if you're between 17 and 25, I would definitely be going for manual because you don't know where your life is going to take you. So you've got options. You're in your 40s. If your life is pretty set, you got your family or whatever, your life is pretty set. So if you go automatic, it's very rare someone goes automatic and need a manual in the 40s. But you have to do what's right for you. I can't really advise you that because I would advise you wrong if that was me, to be fair. Because like I said, I would say do manual, but maybe you don't need it. Okay, I'm glad. I'm not going to make comments about motor drivers and BMW drivers, but yeah, I'm glad you're driving and loving it. 7 months. 7 months since you passed that. Wow, time flies. English second language, I find it difficult to understand all the questions. I think that's the reason I failed twice. First time, so you thought. If English is a second language, there's 2 things you can do. One, copy and paste the question into Google and ask them to translate it into your language so you've got a better understanding. Or there's an app called Theory Test Pro. You can download that, and I believe you can change the language from English into your language. I'm not sure if the other apps do that, but I know Theory Test Pro, you can change English into any other language, and again, it will explain it in your language, will give you a better understanding. That's the way to go. If because I teach a lot of people with English is not their first language, so that's the 2 things you can do. Copy and paste it, or AI if you want to do that. Copy and paste the question into Google or AI and ask them to translate it into your language. It gives you a better understanding. Or download the app called Theory Test Pro, and you can change the English to your language. Will help you out. I wish you luck with that. What are we on, number 9? If English isn't your first language, this is for everybody, I'm not talking to the last person. Just do some extra work. Literally do some extra work. Type it in Google, blah blah blah, and all the rest of it. You just have to go the extra mile. Just don't use the app. You just need to get more understanding behind it. So 9C is what you guys are going for. Yeah, be ready to stop. If you scream for a while, you can change to steady amber. How far are you allowed to reverse? No problem, you're welcome. Modo Jason, I've not seen your name before, so welcome to Limited. I booked my ferry for the 30th of July in the evening. Is it enough time to study and pass? I can't answer that. I don't know what time you're going to put in. 30th of July is, what's that, 18 days away, give or take. I don't know how much studying you're going to put in, because I can say yeah, but if you're going to put 5 minutes in between now and then, no, it's not enough. So I don't know. Any time is enough. It just depends how you want to structure. If you want to cram in 5 hours before the day before the test, that can work. Is it advisable? No. But any time, because I used to do a 5 days boot camp because I did intensive driving courses. So they did the ferry over the 5 days, took their ferry test on the Friday, and then go and book their driving test over the weekend. So anything's possible. It all depends how you structure your learning. And I don't know what time or effort you're going to put into that, so I can't answer. But you have got enough time. If that's the question, you have got enough time. But it just depends how you use that time. All right, okay, sorry. I just saw this now. Right, happy to share, man. I've got 9 categories. See, that's what I'm going straight away. 9 categories wrong. So that's, remember, there's only 14. That's more than half. 1 to 3 questions each. So then the question you said, again, I'm trying to remember, motorways and rules of the road. Then how could that be your weakness? And you got 9 categories wrong between 1 and 3 questions. That's my point I'm trying to make. And this is what you guys do. You guys think, oh, my weakness is X. You study X and then go back and fail. What you're missing is there's 9 categories you got questions wrong in. So you need to restudy those 9 categories. That's minimum. Study the whole 9 categories. That's the minimum. Technically, you want to study the other 5 categories as well, because if you got 35, 15 questions wrong, there's a serious lack of weakness. Because when you go for the next test, it's a different set of 50 questions taken from those 14 categories. So if 9 categories a week and you get similar questions for those 9 categories, it's the same outcome. But yeah, I'm glad you shared it, and I thank you for sharing that, because hopefully that helps everybody else. I repeat, you guys think 1 or 2 categories is your weakness. It's not. You can't fail your theory test for 1 or 2 categories. I've been getting 45, 48 on my practice. Let me come back to that. Let me just quickly answer this question there, number 10. Tempe, not sure, because I don't know where the car is reversing into. As I said, you're deep, and I'm going to explain why I got D here. I'm going to explain why you're deep. That worries me when you take your test on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it is, or this week anyway. I know it's this week, because you overthink it. And I've got so many students who overthink the theory test and on their driving lessons. If they give you, let me see what the answer is. 10B. Let me put this back up so I can see it. When you read the question, don't overthink it. If they give you A and B as the information, use A and B. Do not overthink. Start adding C, D. Do not take anything out of it either. And let me explain. You said 10B, which is the right answer, by the way. Not sure, because I don't know where the car is reversing. All the question says, how far are you allowed to reverse? I don't know where the car is. You're just going backwards. Reversing is backwards. You're going backwards. So how far back can you go? That's what it's saying. How far back can you go? Don't overthink it. So how far back can you go? No further than necessary. So you go the minimum amount of length. So I'll give an example. You go past, let me do this on screen if I can. so you understand. Right, so let's just say this is a side road and you want to turn down here. Oh, you can't see, let me bring it down a bit more. Let's do it here, like that. And then you've got side roads. Right, so you're coming down here and you want to turn to your left into here, but you missed it and you drove past. Now, if you drove half a mile down the road, you can't reverse back half a mile, it's too far. That's unnecessary. You've got to go around the block or find something else. Now, if you went past the corner 2 to 3 car lengths, for example, you can now reverse back 2 to 3 car lengths and then go the other way, if that makes sense. So no further than necessary. So don't overthink it. It's simple as that. Got the right answer, but like I said, don't add things in there you don't need to be adding. As you approach a pelican crossing, the lights change to green. What should you do if older people are still crossing? Right, I've been getting 45 to 48 in my practice. If that's what you're getting, that's what you're getting. Again, it still doesn't mean to say you're ready, because the questions coming up could be the questions you already know the answer to. That's why the score's consistent rather than getting 50 on some occasions, because obviously if you're still getting 5 wrong on a test, there's still a lack of knowledge of some point. I'm not saying don't take a test. What I'm saying is, why you're not getting 50 out of 50 at some point. So this still shows a weakness. At some point on your mock test, you really want to be hitting. I'm not saying 50 out of 50 every time, because you learn more from the mistakes. But if you're getting 45, 48 on your practice sessions, the question is, why haven't you hit 50 on 1 or 2 of the practice sessions? Because that means you're still getting something consistently wrong. So that's just what I'm saying, be careful with that. I have a test in 3 days. Any tips you would suggest? 3 days, what I would start to do now, if you was my student, start doing mock tests if you haven't already. And when I say mock test, complete mock test with hazard perception straight afterwards. In the study camp, I get my students to do just 50 questions. After they do the categories, just do questions, mock test every so often. And then when we start to approach the week of the test, we step it up and start to do the questions and hazard perception, because you want to train your brain now to be mentally strong to do both together. When you are studying, make sure you study in a study environment. So you're not doing it with the TV on, with music in the background, family calling you to do X, Y, Z. It's got to be in a quiet room where you have time to do the complete test, not pausing it, not taking time out. That's the build up I would do on that. Obviously, if you're getting any questions wrong, revisit those categories to tighten up that knowledge. When you go for the test on the day, arrive nice and early. It's supposed to be 15 minutes before, but I would definitely turn up about half an hour before. Don't sit outside and wait for the time. Go in, say, I'm here early. They normally get you in early if they've got the space to do that. And when you go in, just take deep breaths. If your test is in 3 days, the weather's supposed to be still hot. Make sure you stay hydrated, funny enough. Make sure you stay hydrated, because you can't take water in there with you to have a drink or anything like that. And just take deep breaths in between. If you're not sure of the answer, flag it, move on, go back, and then spend the remaining time working at the flagged ones. And work backwards if you don't know what the answer is. Get rid of the stupid answer. There's always one stupid answer that stands out. Get rid of it and just work backwards. And sometimes you're left with the correct answer by default. But the most important thing is take your time, and good luck with it. Number 11. I know there's lots of questions coming up and everything else. I will get to them. I'm just doing the ones I've starred. So if I've not read your question or comment out, I will get to it. Hello, welcome. My test on Tuesday. I wish you luck with that. I've just seen this. I don't going in water. My sensor allowed me to take. They shouldn't, unless they change their policy. If it's clear, fine. But most bottles aren't clear. I'm just telling you what I know as the standard rules. Every centre is going to be different because it's run by 3 different organisations. So it depends what organisation your centre comes under. I'm just saying, make sure you're hydrated, because technically you're not allowed to take water in the centre with you. So unless you change the policy about clear bottles and stuff like that, I don't know. But either way, make sure you stay hydrated because you still need it. All right, so 11B is what you guys gone for. Wait patiently. Yeah, wait patiently. They're crossing the road. You're parked on the road at night. When must you use parking lights? The book said to remove helmet. Maybe I misunderstood. Yeah, based on the question you asked me, because you gave 2 options. What do you do first? Remove the helmet or phone the emergency services? It's going to fund the emergency services. Now, if the question was kind of worded, the motorcyclist needs help first aid wise, but yes, you're going to move the helmet first, because it's more important to make sure they keep breathing. Phoning the ambulance and you can't give breath, revive somebody afterwards makes no sense. As I said, questions are worded differently, which means the answer is going to be different. So you have to understand. Again, it goes back to what I'm saying. Understand the question. If they're giving the option of the motorcyclist in the middle of the road, blah blah blah, the area is safe, what's the first thing you should do? Phone the emergency services. Similar question, motorcyclist being in front of the road, they're not breathing, what's the first thing you do? You're going to move the helmet to give first aid. That's the first thing you do, because while you're on the phone phoning the ambulance, they're dying. So you've got to read the question, understand what it's relating to. So one question may say remove the helmet, but it's worded differently to the question that's going to phone the first aid emergency services first. That makes sense. Right, just breathing, don't push too much. Revision last day or so. You need a clear mind. Could you please explain about red routes? Red routes are the other questions for red routes. Red routes and yellow lights are pretty much the same thing. They stop you from parking. Double reds, double yellows. If they ask you what it's for, what's the purpose? It helps congestion or helps traffic flow. They come with it either way. So if it's double yellows, double red, you should not be parking on them, so the traffic can flow consistently. Single yellows, single red are parking restrictions, so you can park there at certain times of the day. The difference between double reds, double yellows, there's no tolerance on the reds. If you've got a disabled badge, you can park on the double yellows. If you've got a disabled badge, you cannot park on the double reds. That's all there is to that. I did the ferry test last time and I failed by 2 marks. Be careful with that phrase, and I'll explain why in a minute. I don't know that app. Isn't helping me that much. Similar questions will come in. I might avoid app and attend live session that people do in, and that bit's missing out. Alright, let me come back to that statement. What are we on? 12. I've got 12B and 12Cs here. 12Bs and 12Cs, right? You're passing the roads. When you're facing oncoming traffic, you can't face oncoming traffic. You always park up on the left with traffic. Traffic flows on the left, so you always park up with the flow of traffic. You can't park up facing oncoming traffic. The reason why, let me explain this. You're parked on the road at night. When must you use parking lights? When the speed limit exceeds 30 miles an hour. In other words, when traffic is faster than 30 miles an hour. The next speed up is 40. They'll only do 10s on public highways. So it's 40 miles an hour or more. It's a faster road. So people need to know you're parked so they can do their lane changes nice and early. Parking lights do not kill the battery. If you left your dipped headlights on, it will kill the battery. Parking lights drains minimal power. That's the reason why. What should you do when you move off from behind a parked car? So let me just come back to this one. I did a theory test last time. I failed by 2 marks. Be careful with 2 marks. What you just doing with that, you just told your brain I only need 2 to pass. And what you do is book another test pretty soon because you think, well, I only need 2, and you study for 2 marks. You got 41 out of 50. So which means you got 9 questions wrong. Again, 9 questions normally means you got about 5 to 6 categories. You need to restudy those categories first and foremost. You will always, if you didn't pass your theory test, you need 2 marks to pass, yes, but you got 9 questions wrong. That's how you have to look at it, because you want to aim for 50 out of 50. So train your brain to go for the highest mark, not the lowest, as in 2 marks. You said the apps is not helping. Similar questions are similar. Yeah, that's what the app is, because only 700 and something questions on there. I might avoid the app and attend live sessions. Avoiding the app, that's your decision. Attend live sessions is not a bad decision. What you guys are supposed, some of you do, not all of you, you just get the app, that's your lot. You're supposed to use the app in conjunction with other stuff. Google, AI. If you want to do books, I wouldn't do books, but like I said, that's me because of my dyslexia. You just don't use the app alone for training. You use the app in conjunction with other stuff. That's why I say if you can take driving lessons, you're using the app along the driving lessons. So for those of you doing driving lessons, you got road markings, road signs, comes up on the app. You not necessarily go on the motorway for that, but dual carriageway is a similar type of thing. Left-hand lane on the dual carriageway, what's it for? Stay left when possible. You can use your instructor to help you on your driving lessons with the app. So use the app in conjunction with other stuff, not just the app on its own. That's what you got to understand. Again, study smarter. That's the whole point. If you're just using the app, can you pass with just the app? Yes. Should you? No. Use the app in conjunction with YouTube. You guys are family through YouTube. You're on YouTube now. So there's nothing wrong with doing YouTube channels and kind of typing into that and see if you're struggling with a particular question, type that question into YouTube and see what video comes up to explain it. So just the app alone, I wouldn't be doing. I use it in conjunction with other stuff that's suitable for you. That's the way you study. Someone said English is not their first language. Copy and paste the question into Google. So you're now using the app into Google to translate it into your language. You're using other stuff as well. 13. If you really want to give yourself the best possible chance of passing and moving really fast with your driving lessons, you have to go the extra mile with the studying wise. If you're just going to do the basic app stuff, as I said, when you go for your driving lessons, there's still going to be gaps, and your instructor's sitting at the roadside explaining theory test stuff that you already passed when you should be driving. Blind spot checks. What should you do before you move from behind the parked cars? Blind spot checks or shoulder checks they tend to use on the real test. What does this sign mean? Alright, now let me catch up with the other comments. There's lots of these around. Right, you guys are going for B. I'm not seeing that right. Got a question mark there, so not sure. You guys gone for B, Hunt Bridge. Grace has gone for D. This is humps in the road. Triangles are warnings, warn you of humps in the road, not bridge. The difference between a hump bridge and the humps in a road, the bridge would have a white bit in the middle, so there'd be like a white bit here. So that suggests you can drive through it and over, but this is solid, so you can only go you can only go over it. So it's humps in the road, or hump in the road. What's the purpose of the yellow lines painted across the road? I'm going to make this into a two-part question. First question is the original one. What's the purpose of the yellow lines painted across the road? And does anybody know what these lines are called? Because sometimes on the day of a test, the real test, they call it by the real name. So the main question is, what's the purpose of the yellow lines painted across the road? The other question I'm adding in, does anybody know what the yellow lines are called? Yes, humps in the road. But when you Google or research stuff you do not understand, not when things you haven't seen before. If you haven't seen it before, then you can't Google. You haven't seen it, so you don't know it's there, so you can't Google it. You Google stuff that you don't understand. So like certain words you don't understand, Browser Hill that came up, Google it. Someone asked what's the double yellow lines and double the difference between red roots and yellow lines. Google it. You got two and say you and I said you get my words out. Use YouTube. This is YouTube. You're here using YouTube. It's live, interactive. It's me talking to you. So as much as I'm saying use YouTube, if you guys are studying during the week, you can do the extra studying. If you don't want to do that, you write the questions down and you bring it to the light. That's why I go live on a Sunday, so I can fill in the blanks. So you can always write your question down, so you're not guessing the question, and then bring it to the session on Sunday. And I'm gonna it's still good. It's still YouTube. I'm on YouTube, and it helps other people because when people watch the replay, they may have that question as well. That's why when people come to the live sessions and say they pass, I like when they do that because it encourages and motivates other people. If they can do it, so can I. Some of you are sharing study tips on here. I think Ernie's passed and got 49 out of 50, and you guys are asking him how he's studying. What did he do? That all helps each other. You all, let me explain. You all make the same mistakes. That's what you guys don't understand. You're all making the same mistakes. You all think the same thing because you're all learners. You just think it's unique to you, and that's what every learner, even with the driving lessons, every time a learner makes a mistake, they think it's only them that made the mistake. It's not. It's a learner thing. You all go through the same process. That's why it's good to do a group session like this live. And when I did a study camp, which I got at 1 o'clock today, we do it as a group. They all learn from each other. You're not unique. That's the thing you got to understand. And there's no embarrassment in asking the question, getting a question wrong. Learn from it. So like I said, it all depends on how it's not called chevrons. It all depends on how you want to do your studying. I haven't got one to. I got it in the study camp, but I haven't got one to hand. I can just pop out. They are called road hatch markers. Nope, they're not. Not chevrons. Chevrons are almost like an upside down triangle without the triangle. Chevrons are found on motorways, by the way. They That's not countdowns. What's that? Oh. Chevrons are for your distance. 2 second gap, 4 second gaps. What was the other one that wasn't there? hatch markings. Hatch markings are for separating traffic. This Kufa was in my test. I went for 15B. Right, you got the answer correct. It is B. It's make you aware of your speed. They're called rumble strips. The yellow markings are called rumble strips. So like I said on the day, rather than say yellow lines, they can say what's the purpose of rumble strips. And that's the reason why it's all about understanding. So rumble strips are the yellow lines. They're painted slightly higher than the tarmac, not as high as speed humps, just slightly higher than the tarmac. So as you drive over, the car rumbles, hence the name rumble strips. And if it's a smooth rumble, then your speed's correct. And if it's a violent rumble, you're too fast on approach to your hazards. That's what it's for. What should you do if your vehicle breaks down in a tunnel? Again, you guys are, like I said, you guys are having a conversation, which is a nice thing to have, sharing your tips and what you did. I've not seen Michael's comment on there though. Oh, here it is. How do you ensure that you can recognise it as a school? How do you ensure that you can recognise, understand what a hazard is? A hazard is a hazard. It makes no difference. Well, it is. I'm going to do a demonstration, so if you stick around towards it, if you can't, watch the replay. But a hazard is the same for every video. A hazard is something that's going to call you to slow down or change direction. All you got to do is spot it. And go for a 2-click. All the signs with the numbers are in this question here. CA449 written in yellow. What does it mean? I have no idea what you're talking about with that. I didn't know it existed, so I couldn't understand what it meant if I didn't know it existed. Maybe I'm being a bit unclear. For example, the driveway hill. I don't know what that means. Driver-way hill. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Like, if you don't know it exists, you can't Google something. That doesn't make sense. How can I put this? Right, let's just say, for example, I'll use the aquaplaning questions. Let's just say you have never come across the word aquaplaning. You can't Google it because you've never come across it. What I'm saying to you is, if you come across something that you don't understand, then that's when you should be Googling. You can only Google stuff or research stuff that you have come across. If you don't know it exists, you don't know it's there. What you don't want to do is find out on the day of the test it exists, because obviously that's going to throw you. So if you've never come across the word aquaplaning in your studies, but they use the word aquaplaning on the day of the test, then yeah, it's going to throw you. But what you're hoping is that that's one question. You're hoping the other 49 question is solid. So for example, when I asked you the question about the yellow lines, does anyone know what the yellow lines are called? Nobody got it right, because they talk about the yellow lines. But now if you go for the real test and they word it rumble strips and the yellow lines are missing, you're going to be thinking, well, what the hell's rumble strips? But now you know rumble strips is the yellow lines. So you can only Google stuff that you have come across. Right, let's do 15. 16, my eyesight's really bad, God. C. Yeah, you're a hazard now, aren't you? You're broken down, so I put your hazard lights on. You're at an incident. What could you do to help an unconscious casualty? Uh, so I'm just going back through the comments, and my last question, apologies, no apologies needed. I've just had my test or revising. Okay, where's the yellow traffic light, not other colours? Will that also be school crossing? It's to let you know school children's around. Not necessarily school crossing, but it's to let you know school children's around. So the question normally is, what should you do? Is reduce your speed. The yellow lights only come on when school's starting and school's finishing. So it's to let you know schools around, to reduce your speed. That's what it's for. I don't think leaded fuel is sustainable. However, I don't know. I still think 5A. Leaded fuel doesn't exist. It's only two fuels now: unleaded and diesel. So you're answering each other's question, which is good. All right, let me carry on with this. 17, 16. Right, you guys come for A. Check that they're breathing normally. Yeah, check they're breathing normally. See, now similar question to this one. We were talking about the helmet. This could be like a question where you move the helmet first, because it says check that they're breathing normally. If they wasn't breathing normally, then you want to remove the helmet, because that could be stopping them from breathing, the strap, for example. But like I said, it depends how the question is worded, whether it's going to be check the person or phone for an ambulance. Where is your vehicle most likely to... Where is your vehicle most likely to be affected by side winds? Let me just clarify this. Sorry. Many primes. Slow moving things are hazards. Hazard lights are amber. May help you remember that. Slow moving things are hazards. Hazard lights are amber. Yeah, that's a good way of remembering it. I will add slow moving are your tractors, mobility scooters, road maintenance vehicles, AA, RAC when they're towing vehicles. That's a good way of doing that. What did I say? Oh, you're talking about the emergency vehicles. Blue is emergency. Green is doctor. Slow is amber flashing. Now you can apply it to whatever. Right, let me just clarify. Blue is emergency. It's emergency vehicle saving human life. The why I say that is, or clarify that, because on the real test, you guys skim read. Some of you skim read. That's why you do your test in 15-20 minutes. And on one, when they talk about blue lights, on one of the answers, it's got animal ambulance. So all you see is ambulance, and that's the answer you go for. Animal ambulance is not human life. It doesn't have a blue light. So as much as it says ambulance, you got to clarify: is it animal ambulance or a human ambulance? If that makes sense. and then that's going to be the answer you go for. So let me clarify. Blue is emergency services only, but saves human life. Number 18. Some of you typing your answers way too many times and still not putting a letter number before it, so it doesn't get shown. I'm talking about IZoo billionaire. You just need to type it once, but not only that, you need to put the number and the letter of choice. 18C is what coming up. Open stretched road, yeah. Fields either side, that's what that means. There's no houses, no trees. It's an open stretched road. So the wind's blowing right across. When would you use the right-hand lane of a 2-lane dual carriageway? 2 lanes. Interesting answer. There isn't a colour, I just said that. There is no colour. Animal ambulance, there's no colour. It's just an ambulance. Me, Miss Lady, I wish these explanations were built in the app before you answer the question instead of going to Google to find out what I mean. They give you, the apps give you the basic highway code answer, if that makes sense. It's very hard to give these type of explanations because everybody understands things or interpret things differently. So they give the basic stock answer in the highway code. It's just breaking it down. Well, I try to break it down in a simple way, and that's how the channel started. Because when I used to do this in the classroom, students turned around and said, the way you explain it's so simple, blah, 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 you should start a YouTube channel because people are struggling. I didn't realise how many people was actually struggling to pass their theory test, to be fair, until the channel started. But they can't give the explanations I'm giving because, like I said, everybody learns differently. They just give the basic stock answer from the highway code. Sammy, you're welcome. And that's where you guys need to go. If you don't understand it, that's where you need to go a little bit deeper in terms of your studying. 19B. When you're turning right or overtaking. Yeah, I was right about 2 lanes. Anyway, it could be a motorway version of this. So the question, let me explain, simple. The difference between a motorway and dual carriageway. Motorway is just for overtaking. You can't turn right on a motorway. And the dual carriageway is for turning right and overtaking. So that's the difference between a motorway and a dual carriageway. The speed limit's the same, 70 miles an hour, but the lanes are different. You can see all of that. Right, you're in a left-hand lane at traffic lights, waiting to turn left. Which signal means you must wait? Vehicle load didn't have anything to do with features of vehicles. It's still more of remembering the features a car has. You're still using this word remembering. You're always going to remember stuff. You have to remember stuff. What I'm saying is don't memorize it as in letter for letter, word for word. You still have to understand it, but you have to recall that information from somewhere. That's remembering. But what I'm saying is someone turns around and says, again, I use the 2 + 2 example. If someone turns around and said, what's 2 plus 2? Sorry, 2 plus 2 is 4. And they've made that rigid 4, 4, 4. 2 plus 2 is always 4. And you remember that when you go to a question and it's really 3 plus 1, you're struggling because the brain only sees 2 plus 2. But when you understand there's different combinations, the brain is open to understand it and recall the information. That's what I'm trying to say. You always have to remember stuff. Even when I'm talking to you about certain things, I'm trying to remember it, but because I understand it, makes it easier to remember. All I'm saying is don't go in there if the question is X, Y. Let me show you on this one. I'll give you a quick example on this one in a minute. I've joined the live to learn study smart. Yes, but the live only works from the students on the live. For example, there's 6 to 8 of you, so it's only gonna answer the questions that you guys type in, information that you guys require. Some of the questions that are not typed in may be the questions you need answering with, so you still have to use the app. I'm not saying don't use it live, because I like you guys here, don't get me wrong. Use the videos on YouTube. There's other channels out there, it's not just me. Whatever is going to help you, but what I'm saying is, if no one typed in any questions and just literally done the 20 question mock test, you're not learning anything that you need to learn. That's the point I'm trying to make. So yes, study smarter, but it's about using the stuff around you and working for you. So another example is, if you've only got 10 to 15 minutes to spare for studying, make sure you know what you're going to do in those 10 to 15 minutes. What you guys do, just pick up your phone, do a random mock test, rush it into, that's not studying, that's just cramming in the test. But if you only got 10 to 15 minutes, maybe do a document section, because documents only have 27 questions. You can do that in 10 to 15 minutes. Now, if you went to do motorways, that's a different thing altogether. It's 133 questions, but that's going to take a lot longer than 10 to 15 minutes. So you got to know what you're studying, what you want to get out of the studying, and then go from there that way. That's studying smart. Just picking up an app and just doing a random mock test is not studying smart. That's just taking a test. Number 20, last one. YouTube, any app of choice. I recommend the 4-in-1, that's the one I use, and any other bits and pieces you guys want to use. But like I said, everybody's different. People can do it just on apps, people can just do it on videos. You just got to find out what works for you. Anything with no green. Beautiful. That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm not understanding that. Let me mark that and come back to it. In the UK, it's always keep left unless overtaken. That's why I don't understand this point. This is the part that confuses me, because I learned to drive on the left. So probably we drive on the right. When you say drive on the left, does that mean your steering wheel's on the left? Because it doesn't change anything if you... Let me just keep it simple. Hold on, let me just deal with this first, because that's kind of confused me. Yeah, Mini Prime said it straight away. When this question comes up, most people go for this. It's anything with no green, because green means go. So this is go, depending on where you're going. This is go, depending on where you're going. This is go, depending on where you're going. This, everybody has to stop. So that's how you simplify it, literally like that. So just literally work backwards, right? Which one can't I go on? And I think this one doesn't have green, so that's the answer. As I mentioned earlier on, especially for those of you that got 30x in your real test, it's made up of 14 different categories. So obviously we're just doing a 20 question mock test. You've got 10 categories out of a 20 question mock test, and the one that's got the most is this one. Safety in your vehicle's got 3 questions out of your 10 categories. That's one of the reasons why you need to study the categories, to make sure they're strong, because you don't know how your 50 question is going to be made up, because it's random 50 questions when you go in there. There's no same 50 questions for anyone that's in this, random. So you want to make sure your knowledge is strong with that. And the way to start is just to make sure you're doing your categories first before moving on to mock test. So I'm going to catch up with his comments on there, because there's some interesting ones on there. Right, I've got the book now, Know Your Traffic Signs. I've explained the colours, but there are also numbers, e.g. door field written in black against a white background. I know where you're coming from with that. You're going too deep. They don't do that on the theory test. That's the reason why they don't do it on the theory test. I'm going to just keep it simple. The ones I mentioned was the blue signs, the blue, green, black and white, red and white bars, 300 yards, 200, 100, black box, white writing on the motorway, which is your countdown. No, sorry, it's not. It's your junction number or exit number. You can go too deep with the road signs. You said you got the book. That's the reason why I recommend the 4-in-1, because it's got everything on there. You don't need to go and buy books. I'll come back to that. Let me star you and I can find you in terms of that, because I think I know where you're coming from with that now. Could you please explain more about red routes? I did that. Yeah, she's gone too deep in the road signs. That's what it is. I failed 6 times, even when I scored. Right. As I mentioned earlier on, is it Abdullah or Abdullah? Someone who passes the hazard perception really well, I'm not saying 44, 45, 46, it's always possible you can go backwards with that. Someone who scores really well on the hazard perception, it very rare they fail the hazard perception moving forwards, because they understand what a hazard is. And someone else mentioned that, which I should have started you. What's the best way to spot a hazard and to ensure you get a high score? A hazard is a hazard. Once you know what a hazard is, you just have to work out what the hazard is on that particular video, which I'll explain in a minute when I do a demonstration. Now, if you're getting 37 out of 50 6 times, there's lack of knowledge. That's the reason why you're failing. There's no other reason than that. It's lack of knowledge. You're again probably doing mock test after mock test on the app and getting a half decent score, but you're not understanding why the answer is what it is. So when you go for the real test, it's really differently. You're struggling, you're lost. That's what it comes down to. So you need to understand the question and understand the answer, like I said right at the beginning of all of this. So on this reverse question, when reversing to a side road, sorry, I got rid of this again. Only use the rear mirror. I choose the latter. Not sure if it's one of those I failed. Yeah, because you're getting the question mixed up. The reversing question, original reversing question that was on here, was similar to, because it's right just above, because Mini Prime went a bit deep. I don't know where the car's reversing. The reversing question was, how far are you allowed to reverse? The question you're asking is, you want to reverse, but you're not sure of the area behind the car or behind you is safe. That's the question. It's 2 different questions, even though it's reversing. The answer you're looking for, there's one of 2 answers. You get out and check. And the reason why you're getting that check, because children playing hide and seek, black bags, recycling bins could be behind your car. You just don't know it. So you come out and check. If that answer or option isn't there, then it's going to be ask someone to guide you. I will add as well, if that option is there, ask someone to guide you. Don't overthink it, but what if nobody's there? If they gave you that option, the theory test is saying someone is there. So it's only 2 options. I repeat the question. You're unsure, you want to reverse, you're unsure the area behind the car is safe. What should you do? Get out and check, or ask someone to guide you. Don't use your mirrors. The mirrors don't. And I will also add some more information on that. They're talking from the boot down. The mirrors show you down the road. It doesn't show you from the boot down. That's why you come out and check, or ask someone to guide you. I've been studying I don't know. You're never going to be confident. So I wouldn't be doing that. As in, when I say do that, holding off because you're never going to be confident. You said you've been studying on and off for 3 months. There's got to be a reason why it's on and off for 3 months. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to book it for the end of July. It's realistic. End of the month gives you some time to put the studying in. Will you ever be confident? Probably not, because nerves always gets in the way, always self-doubt, especially if you're a type of person who's not a confident person. I would book the test if you've done a decent amount of studying, getting decent scores on the mock test. I will add, just because you're getting decent scores on mock test, it doesn't mean you're ready for it, but at least you're showing consistency. If you're not getting a regular pass on mock tests, I wouldn't be taking the test. But if you're doing that, book it and take it, because one or two things are going to happen. You're going to either pass it, happy days, move on, and if you fail it, you've now got data, so you've got an idea of what you need to work on in terms of the categories, and also you've got the experience of taking a test. But if you never take one, you haven't got that experience. You're right when you said you have to understand the question, because every time. Yeah, there you go. After a while, it becomes a memorizing exercise. That's why I say you don't really want to be studying for more than 30 days. If you're doing regular studying, you don't want to be studying on the app for more than 30 days, because the questions just keep coming back one after the other. And it's just memorizing after that. The understanding just goes through the window. The brain just says, I recognize the question, I know what the answer is. So learning doesn't take place. I used to, yeah, you guys are talking to each other about that. Center. So I'm just going through the comments before I do the has perception. Red root, I explain. Yes, it's just come back up around Michael. It was the one. So I'm going to do, if you're still here, let me know if you're still here, by the way. But if you're not, I'm going to do, if you're not, I ain't going to hear what I'm saying. If you are, I am going to do has perception in a minute. I failed 42 and 43. Has perception obviously needs work. And 42, eight questions wrong. So it's got to be at least 5 categories. So again, it's at least you got the data now. Start with the categories you got the questions wrong and look at what you got messed up on, and then go from there. In terms of the has perception, it gives you a breakdown. So what you want to be doing now is looking at what scores you got. If it's lots of zeros, it's way too early or way too late. If it's lots of 1s, 2s and 3s, you kind of don't understand when to click for the hazards. So that's your guidelines with that. But yeah, there's a bit of work to be done on that. Appreciate it. I watched the video. I practiced the test on the app. Passed. So now I'm just going to okay. Also failed first time with 40 for multiple choice and 60. 60 has perception, nailed it. 40, 10 questions wrong. Again, similar thing. Do the categories. 10 questions wrong on a real test. I would restudy the you got the basic categories of what they gave you, but I would go back to the beginning and do each category in turn. I can't go back. This app doesn't allow me to go back. Chris, if we had a picture I want to use to clarify if you're able to go back. Yeah, the app doesn't allow me to go back on this one because we're in a quiz kind of thing. What she was saying is she wanted deeper explanations rather than just the bog standard explanations, which all apps are going to give you the highway code. They can't break it down like I do. A41, B41, M1. A1B roads are dual carriageway. M is motorway. That's what it stands for. So anything like M1, M5, M32 is motorways. A, B is dual carriageways. Done my test on Monday, scored 4161, has perception. Again, 9 questions wrong, lack of knowledge on that. For more, it's a credit to the way you explain. Thank you for that, Andrew. I appreciate that. I think that's up to date now. Right, I think I'm up to date. What's this for? Has a perception? Wow, that is such a fun section. For has a perception, what's the maximum amount of clicks for the real driving test on the app? It's 20. How did you work it out to be 28? For has a perception, what's the maximum amount of clicks for the real driving test on the app is 28. How did you work it out to be 28 clicks? I booked for the 28th. You got 40 something on the previous test, didn't you? 41, 28th you booked it for. What's that? 16 days, 2 weeks from now. It depends on the study you put in. But it's not even about the study, it's about the quality, because you failed for a reason. Like I said, you failed for lack of understanding. Is it possible to get the understanding within the 16 days? Yes. But you must know that you failed because you didn't understand what they was asking you, which means you did not understand the answer. So it's not about just doing mock tests and getting a higher score. It's about understanding the stuff they asked you. You got an idea of what they asked you on the real test now. Do some research and know so you don't make the same mistake twice. When turning on a roundabout, do you signal left and leave indicator on or right? I also get this question yesterday. I was confused. The reason why you're getting confused because you didn't understand the question. I'm going to explain why in a minute. I'll come back to that in a second. I did a video on that, by the way. It's one of the last videos I did with the roundabout question. So I suggest you jump on the channel because I break it down with visuals on that. What's the best? Sorry, you can't see that. What's the best app to use? I just finished my theory test. I didn't really revise. If I'm being honest, I paced and got 30. I passed, I'm assuming that's what you meant. Hazard and got 30 on multiple choice. That's lack of understanding. Massive. 20 questions wrong on a real test. And what's the best app to use? I just finished my theory test. I recommend a 14-1. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's just the one that I use. I missed something there on the narrow control lane. I went on one and clicked repeatedly until it didn't let me click anymore, and then I counted. Right, okay, big mistake with that. First of all, let me get your original comment if I can find it. Nope, I can't find it. You said it's 28 clicks. First of all, this is the wrong way of thinking. You should never be clicking anywhere near 28 on a hazard. They're never going to show you a video that you're going to need to click 28 times. That's the first thing. So if you get anywhere near 20 clicks for a video, you don't know what a hazard is, you're guessing. And if their program is more sensitive than the app, then it's going to kick you out. And what I mean by that, on that particular video, it's going to say you clicked in an unacceptable manner, and they're going to give you a 0. With that, when you do hazard perceptions, you should never be counting your clicks, because if you're counting the amount of clicks you're doing on a hazard perception, you do not know what a hazard is. Right, let me just get my iPad out first while I'm doing this. A hazard is anything that's going to cause you to slow down or change direction. Just in case you don't know, a hazard, let me go bigger screen because this is important. I'm going to enforce this. Right, a hazard is anything that's going to cause you to slow down or change direction. If you didn't know, for those of you not doing driving lessons, the click that you do to get your 4s and 5s is you checking the mirrors. It's the equivalent of you checking the mirrors. So you're in the car in the video, that's why you're seeing out the windscreen. You see a problem, you check your mirror. That's what you're supposed to do in real life. Problem, mirror. What they are training you to do is to see the problem early. So you can get, on the videos it starts at 5, in real life it could be 7 seconds, 8 seconds, depending how long the road is, how clear the road is. Because if you see it in the terms of 1 and 2 bracket, the brain will not let you check the mirrors. The brain is designed to protect you. So the first thing the brain will do if you saw a problem late on the driving lesson is go for the brakes first. That's what the brain would do, go for the brake first, check mirror. But the driving test is about you checking the mirrors first. So let me show you this first, so you can see what I'm talking about. So there we go. Right, so use of mirrors is this section here, massive section on your driving test. This is a driving test report sheet. When you take your driving test, you're going to get a copy of this. This is your theory test wrapped up right here in this green paperwork. All right, so every time you see a problem, check your mirrors before you signal that box. Every time you see a problem that's going to change direction, this box. And every time you're going to go slow down, this box. If your mirrors is poor, that's your hazard perception on your driving test, you are going to fail. That's why this section is so massive. So now you know what hazard is. If I can do this, get rid of that. I'm meant to do it. So now you know what hazard is. Let me move on to the app. So let me just show you this first. Sorry. Share screen. No, you don't need share screen, I'll just do this one. Right, so let me just quickly show you something. Just bear with me 1 minute. Right, iPad. So this is what I was talking about. When you buy the books or you go too deep in the app, you can see these type of signs. This is a motorway sign. This is on your theory test. 300, this is what I was saying about the blue and the bars. 300 yards, 200, 100. You can go too deep. These signs aren't on your driving test, so you don't need to know these. So that's what I'm saying. When you buy the books, flashcards, these signs are on those things, and now it could lead you to confusion. And that's why you got different numbers. Home zone is on there, by the way, which doesn't come up normally on the apps. Question 50 question, by the way. Home zone is a question on the real test, and I'll cover that in the study camp. So like I said, you can go too deep. Tram signs, that's on your theory test. So like I said, you can go too deep with road signs. So you've got to be very careful with what you're studying and what you're using it for studying. So like I said, you can go too deep. So just be very careful when you're buying books and going flashcards, because they will give you signs that's not relevant for your theory test. So that's where you're getting the numbers from and all the rest of it, because you're going too deep. I can't actually find the ones with the colours on there, but I know what you're talking about. Maybe these ones. Hold on a second. These are the standards. Here we go. So you can come up across these type of signs. There you go. This one you're talking about. All the numbers on it. That's not relevant for your theory test. That's why you're getting confused with the signs. Because when you said to me about numbers, I'm thinking, what numbers are you talking about? Yeah, these signs have got numbers, but they're not relevant for your theory test. Maybe relevant for your driving lesson if you've got roadworks in the area, but your instructor will explain that as you come across that, because that's not relevant for every driving lesson. It's only relevant if you've got roadworks or narrow lanes in that type of situation. So you will come across. This is on your theory test, kind of thing. That's on your theory test. But that's standard, that's the speed limit sign. So like I said, be very careful how deep you go with your studying. But anyway, hazard perception. That's why you're here. So let me get rid of this comment now. So hopefully that makes sense to you in terms of the numbers and the yellow and black background that you was talking about. With it's not relevant. Right, hazard is anything that's going to cause you to slow down or change direction. I think it was Michael that mentioned it. How can you assure to see early and get the highest mark? You see it and then you click twice. Let me come out of that. You see it and then you click twice. So as soon as you see the problem, you click once and then you count 1, 2. You always want to go for 2 clicks per problem. You can go for 3 if you think you've messed up. So let me just do a real life one where the quality is kind of poor. This one's got no stars, so I haven't done it before. So when you're doing it, always scan the road, cars turning. Got my pedestrian to my left, but he's behaving himself at the moment. And always scan, like I said, scan from left to right and watch the road up ahead. The car's got a signal on, so he's turning. If he slows down, I need to slow down. That's why I'm thinking about the car to my right could come out, so I'm going to click on that. Petrol stations on my left, anything coming out. Zebra crossing. Children to my left. The learner coming from my right. It's a roundabout now. Should give way to him anyway. So I'm on the roundabout. The silver car coming out should be giving way to me. Zebra crossing. No one to my left. No one to my right. Don't need to click on it. 3 out of 5. So let's just fast forward it. Save time. See, 2 clicks per problem, nowhere near 28 clicks, because you don't need that many clicks. Silver car coming from my right. Oh, see, this is why you go for 2 clicks. There's my first one, which is a fraction too early, and my second one obviously landed in the 3. Now, if I just done 1 click, that's a 0. And that's the reason why you go for a minimum of 2 clicks. What they say on the videos when you're doing it, as soon as you see the problem, click. In other words, when you see the problem, click once. Now, if I follow their rules, I've got a 0 and I'm struggling now because maybe you need an average of 3 or more per video. Because I'm teaching you to go for 2 clicks. Once you recognize what hazard is, i.e. the silver car is going to cause me to slow down, I click. Then I should be getting at least a minimum of 3, as you saw. First one's early, 2 seconds. Well, I don't want to say 2 seconds. 2, 1, 2. It landed in the 3. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me just check on the comments just to make sure you guys aren't understanding. When do you have to go into a box junction? When do you have to wait? These questions confuse me. It's not the questions, you're not understanding what the box junction is, because going into the box, when do you have to go? When do you have to go in a box? The answer to that, the only time you're allowed in the yellow junction box is when turning right, prevented by oncoming traffic and your exit's clear. The reason why I'm saying it like that is because they can chop up what I just said as an answer. They don't give you that full answer. That's the full answer, but they can use any part of what I just said. I'll repeat it again. The only time you can go into a yellow junction box is when turning right, prevented by oncoming traffic, and your exit is clear. I didn't check the number of clicks. You don't need to, but I know to be careful. I had one question disqualified because I panicked and clicked like it was a horn when a horse and dog and car popped up in the test. That's funny. Yeah, you don't, like I said, if you're clicking on things that exist, it's never going to add up to too many. If you're clicking on random stuff that don't exist, you don't know what hazard is. That's why you're clicking. You're edging your bets. So that's why you don't have to count your clicks. Just the only clicks you're counting is the 1, 2. Click and then put 1, 2, click again. If you want to go for a third one, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll do a 3 on the next one, and it doesn't add up. But like I said, if you're clicking all over the place, then yeah, you don't know what hazard is. That's the first thing. Change that. The topics in the ferry apps are different to the categories in the highway code. So if I don't know something, it's hard to find where the highway code information is. The highway codes, the reason why I suggest you don't do the highway code is because it's deep book. The highway code, let me explain. The highway is where you drive and where you walk, right? It is for every road user. If you're a pedestrian, it's got the section for you. If you're a horse rider, it's got the section for you. If you're a car driver, it's got the section for you. If you're a bike rider, it's got a cyclist. It's got a section for you. It's for every single road user. It's laws of the road. That's why it's a highway code. What I suggest you do is, again, let me come out of this briefly. Let me get rid of this. 4-in-1, right? On my iPad, this is what I use in the car with my students if they want a bit of ferry training. This is what I do in my videos. This is what I'm using on the live stream. Look what it says under hazard perception. Highway code is already built in. You're not buying any books. Look what it says underneath highway code. It's got road signs. You're not buying any flashcards. It's got everything in there. That's why it's called 4-in-1. It's got everything you need. And they're starting to put driving lesson stuff in there. Learn to drive hub, which I've activated but I've not actually used. Right, so we're going to the highway code. I've got to download this stuff. There you go. So I don't use the highway code for my students. Right? It's got little quizzes on there, but let me index. So if you, I don't know if you guys can see that, but if you go down to the A, animals, horses, level crossings, motorways, you don't need to know about animals as such, other than the sheep in the road, which is a fairy test question, but that's a stupid question, because if the sheep's in the road, you should be stopping because you can't drive past them. So that's a standard question. If you keep going, you got a blue badge scheme. You don't really need to know about a blue badge. You just know it says disabled, you can't park in a disabled spot. You've got, what have we got now? That you don't need. Buses, boarding and alighting. You don't need to know that because you're not a bus driver. So going to the highway code can make you do too much studying, which is too much information that the brain cannot handle. You want to stick to the car theory test, i.e. the main part of the app, which is the categories. And then what you do when you don't understand the road sign, there's nothing wrong with not understanding the road sign, and then go into the road sign section and look for that road sign to get the understanding from it, rather than do all road signs like the yellow and black ones that I show you. That's not relevant. You can do too much. If you want to go that deep, do that after you pass the theory test, because it can be relevant to your driving test. But you don't need to buy stuff if you use the 4-in-1. That's why I say you buy it $4.99. I believe the price is still at, and then you've got everything there. The hybrid card is not that expensive anyway. I think it's about $2.99 because they want everyone to buy one. But it's all in the 4-in-1 app. So let me do the second one.
Before you start your first hazard perception mock test, here's a few things to note. All videos in the app.
Right, so let me reload it. Hazard perception, practice, and share. Right, so now I'll do this CGI ones, which is more clear. I think these have all been done. Let me just do this one. Right, always scan from left to right because road signs are on the pavement. That's why you scan the road from left to right, and the side roads obviously on the left to the right. There's a bend coming up. I can't see around the bend. You should always slow down for a bend. It's also got roadworks. Okay, nothing going on that I can see. Got a van parked up on the right. Guy in the high vis. So I see the guy in the high vis coming from my left. And then I'm going to click again as I get closer. What's that? 2, 4, 6 clicks. Nowhere near 28. I know before you start typing it in problem, I know you was just testing it out. But what I'm trying to say is don't count your clicks. Just spot the hazards. It's never going to end up to 28. Car coming towards me, because the road's wide and the car's coming towards me, it's not a problem. 4 out of 5. So always look to see if you can improve. Okay, let me just speed it up for the sake of the video. So the van's parked up on the right hand side. High vis guy. See, look, there you go. Again, too early. A fraction too early, but because I go for 2 clicks, I'm not fast because I'm always going to get around the 5s and the 4 marks. And that's the reason why you go for 2 clicks. I think I went again just to make sure. So that's a 1, that's a 0. They'll always give the highest mark when you go for 2 clicks. I was going to go for 3 clicks, but I didn't do it. But the point I'm trying to make is as soon as you see the problem, you count 1, 2, and then you click again. And that covers yourself. So as you saw with the 2 videos that I did, if I've done 1 click, it's a 0. So that's why you got to train yourself to do a minimum of 2 clicks. So hopefully that makes sense. I repeat, a hazard is anything that's going to cause you to slow down or change direction. And what I was trying to say before, once you know what a hazard is, slow down, change direction. It's the same for any video. You're just looking for what's going to cause you to slow down or change direction. It doesn't change. That's why that's the easiest part of the 2-part test. The hardest part is the question because you don't know what questions you're going to get. The video, like I said, once you know what a hazard is, it makes no difference what video you're watching. It's the same. Right, let me just make sure I'm not missing any comments. The topics in the very so different categories. Oh my God. I've done that one. Yeah, that's what nerves does. And that's why I said try to relax and stay calm in it because nerves can make you overclick sometimes. 45, 58, congratulations on passing. Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate that. They didn't give me the paper after my test. They didn't give it to you. The question is why, and how do you know if you passed or failed? Did they tell you that information? They could have shouldn't. It's data protection. They should give you the paperwork face down. So I can't remember, sorry, because I'm trying to scan through all these comments. So did you pass or did you fail on that? If you're still here, let me know before we sign out. Is there a reason why you're going to wait till the winter to take it? Because remember, if you are studying on a regular basis, you're going to exhaust all the questions on the app and then automatically becomes a memorizing exercise. So the question I have to ask, obviously, you know what your time scale is, but why would you want to wait till the winter when we're now in July? Because you can go too far the other way where you study, but now you're just memorizing instantly questions, memorizing answers. Remember, it's not about length of time in terms of what you study. It's about making sure you get the quality from it. So you can still study within a month and get quality. You can still take 4 months, still get quality. So you want to be careful with that. But like I said, you know your time scale. Yeah, I figured that you was doing that, but like I said, just don't count your clicks is the best way. Just don't do it. No need. As I said to you when I sent the email, I think it was, you have the knowledge, you just go too deep. That reversing question comes to mind. Just don't overthink it. They ask you a question, give the answer. Don't start, well, what if this, what if that? Because once you start adding stuff in, taking stuff out, it's a different question. Now the brain sees it as a different question. It's going to go for a different answer. That's the reason why. I got 44 for 38 on hazards. Sorry to hear that. That's because you don't know what hazard is. 3 zeros. Yeah, there's something drastically wrong there if you've got 3 zeros. I'm now. But also, if you've got 3 zeros, you've got quite a few 1s, 2s, and 3s. Not just 0, because I've had pupils who got 3 zeros and still passed. So there's other reasons than that. So you need to look at your 1s, 2s, and 3s. Sorry, now I'm just thinking about how much more I do not currently understand. Okay. You're thinking of this the wrong way. See, now I'm just thinking about how much more I do not currently understand. That's overthinking. What you want to be doing is doing a mock test. If you pass the mock test, got 47 out of 50, work on the 3 questions you got wrong. It's a category that the 3 questions come up in. Work on those categories. Do another mock test, not straight afterwards, at a later date or different time of the day, and then do another one and making sure those categories don't come up. You're working backwards. So if you're getting 47 out of 50, for example, based on what you're saying, I'm now going to work on stuff I don't understand. You're going to be looking at more than the 3 questions you got wrong. It's not about what you don't understand, it's what the app has shown you, because you can't study something you don't think you understand. It makes sense. I'm not going on rambling on this. It doesn't make sense. You don't want to be trying to study what you don't understand, what you don't know, if that makes sense. The app shows you where you need to go next. That's the simple way of me saying it. The app shows you. So if you got 47 out of 50, you got 3 questions wrong. Those 3 questions had to come from a particular category. Go back, strengthen that. That's what you want to be doing. Not thinking about what I don't understand. That could be a hell of a lot of stuff. But good luck with it though. I believe if you don't overthink it, you'll pass based on the knowledge that you've got. Do you still take classes? Is that at me? Is that a question for me or just someone in general? Or do I still do classes is the question you're asking. If you're asking me, do I do classes? Yes, through the study camp. Do I still take classes? Do I still do mock tests? Yeah, I'm going to do one this week and film it and put it up on YouTube. I'm just afraid to fail again. You're always going to be afraid to fail. But if you think about it, if you wait to winter, let's say winter's what? Autumn is September, October, and winter's November, December onwards, and you wait and you fail, that's all that time wasted. So you're always going to be afraid to fail. Everyone's always afraid to fail, but you learn from failure. So you may need to fail to get your pass at some point. So what you want to do is just put the work in. I don't know how much time you have to pull it in because of work, college, uni, whatever you do, and then take it. And if you pass it, life goes on. If you fail it, you have data. That's how it works. But you wait until winter because you're afraid to fail, and you fail in winter, and you've wasted 3, 4, 5 months. And before you know it, it'll be 20 to 27 before you take another one. Which section contains the ADA's question, if you're aware? Safety in your vehicle will come up, ADA, yes. There's safety in your vehicle. Please, do you still take people on a 5-day class? No, I don't do 5 days anymore. Because I don't do intensive courses anymore. The 5 days was built around intensive driving courses that I did. So I do 30 days study camp. I still do a 4-day course in there that you can attend anytime as often as you want. So it's Monday to Thursday, and they're recorded if you can't make it. So it's the same structure literally, but it's Monday to Thursday. It's leisurely, so you're not having to cram you can cram in 5 days anymore. You can actually turn up when you want, how you want, over a period of time, because once you're in the class, you're in it. My test is in 2 weeks. Any tips, advice? I'm currently going through all the topics. I scored low on in my mocks first. How do I make sure I fully understand the topic? Only you can make sure you fully understand, and that only shows up by a mock test. Let me just read this again, so let me break this down, because like I said, I'll pick up on what people say. My test is in 2 weeks. Any tips, advice? I'm currently going through all the topics. I scored low on in my mocks first. You always, if you pick up an app to study and you go straight for a mock test, your score's going to be low. And why is it going to be low? Because you haven't got the information. A mock test is to give you an idea of your weaknesses of overall knowledge. Think about it. When you probably taking some of you guys way back, but some of you nearer school age and uni age, you don't do a mock test. I don't know what year it is, because back then it was only fourth year and fifth year. Fifth year you was 15, 16. You only did mock test 15, 16 because you had to learn the stuff when you was 13 and 14. Now you gain all that knowledge. You took a mock test before your O levels and A levels, because you're now testing yourself and all the knowledge you gain in the previous school years. How can you take a mock test when you haven't studied the 14 categories? It makes no sense. You haven't got the knowledge. The whole point of a mock test is to study, get all the information acquired, take the mock test, and it shows you your weaknesses. Because if you're not getting 50 out of 50, there's a weakness. And that's what a mock test is. A mock test isn't designed for you to pass it. It's designed to show you your weakness. So if you're not getting 50 out of 50 every single time, there's a weakness. Even if it's 49 out of 50, you're getting one question wrong. Examine why you're getting that question wrong. So you're now doing it the correct way by going through all the topics, but make sure you're understanding the topics. But you should never have taken a mock test in the first place. I tried 5 times, but then I said I can't do it. Hi, I tried. First of all, I've not seen your name before, so welcome to you. Keena Patel. I think I'm saying that right. I tried 5 times, but then I said I can't do it. Yeah, because your lack of understanding, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you say you can't do it, you're never going to do it. You want your driver's license, you have to pass it. So you saying you can't do it, giving up, that means you're never going to drive legally anyway. So you're never going to drive legally. So if you want your driver's license, you have to do it. All you need to do is make sure when you're studying, you understand it, whether or not you seek help on YouTube, because you're already here. So that means you still want to do it. Whether you want to go down the class route, I'm not the only one who do classes. There's other people out there that does it. And Annie, but she's mainly on Facebook. And there's another one called Chris. I believe he's on Facebook when he does his classes as well. There's other coaches out there that will help you. But if you give up, you're never going to get your license. So keep going. I've had people fail more than 5 times and still pass it eventually. Just don't give up, is what I'm trying to say. Do you know which instrument? If you're talking about for the theory test, yeah, your handbrake light and ABS is what you need to be aware of. If you're talking about a driving lesson, all of them. Don't give up. That's what you should do. If you got a paid version, it's not old. It's automatically updated with any live information, because the reason why I always say go for the paid version, because it's licensed. They have to sell it It has to be licensed by the DVSA. DVSA are the one who sets the questions. So any updates that come out, the licensed trainers, like I'm a licensed trainer, the apps are classed as licensed trainers. They get updated straight away. So if it's a paid version, it's not an old version. You may have downloaded it ages ago, but trust me, it's updated in the background. Right, that's the last comment I'll see on there. But don't give up. If you give up, you're never going to pass. So like I said, just keep going. I know it's disheartening, it's frustrating, and I fully understand that. But some people take longer than others. You're just one of those. But also, one of the reasons why it could take longer than others because you don't understand it. I keep saying this understanding is like a parrot. And what you guys got to understand is the biggest thing is understanding. If you don't understand the questions or answers, it's hard to pass. It's just a memory thing, because when you go for the real test, the questions are worded differently, and if you're unlucky, you can get 8, 9, 10 questions that you've never seen before. But if you understand the safety effect, it doesn't make a difference, because you understand exactly what they're looking for from that particular question. So it is understanding, and it's hard to get the understanding from the apps. That's where you guys may need to dig a little bit deeper. AI, Google, do a bit more research on that. But another good session on the live, because we're 12:37. And normally I give my 2 hours for the YouTube live, because I now got another session at 1 o'clock with the study camp students. So I'm going to grab something to eat quickly, and before I jump on the Zoom for those guys. But keep going, regardless of where you're at, especially you, Kina Patel. Keep going. Mini Prime, good luck on this week for your test. Come back next week, no doubt you will, with positive news. Don't overthink it. If you don't overthink it, you'll pass without a doubt. If you go too deep, yeah, it's going to be 50-50. For those of you who have got a test, I wish you the best of luck with it. For those of you studying, remember, while you're studying, write down any questions that you may have. Bring it to the live sessions. Let me answer it. Send you into your test a lot more confident. That's why I go live, to answer your personal question. But thank you for today. Fully appreciate it. Enjoy the sunshine. Stay hydrated and stay safe. I'll see you next week.